Hey guys, how's it going? Yeah, today I just want to talk about, wristwatches and what it kind of symbolizes. Of course, a lot of people would associate such an iconic watch like the Submariner as something of status, of luxury, of wealth. But to me, right, a Rolex Submariner, a luxury time watch, timepiece, it symbolizes your your place in the modern world, in the Western world. Maybe not the Western world, right, but the modern world. And it's and this is probably one of the best things about the modern world. Then you also come to ask yourself, right, is the modern world all that it's made up to be? Because if you just look around you right now, right, there's a lot of shit going on, guys, in the Middle East, Africa, all these so-called developing third world countries. And then you start to ask yourself, is it all worth it, right? Is all the heartache that's being experienced elsewhere in the world worth having? Is it worth the luxuries of the modern world? I think if you're from North America or especially the U.S. I think we are led to believe that the war on terrorism is associated with Islamic extremists, and it's true. It is true, right? The people who perform these acts of atrocities, right, and all these bombings and of course 9/11, they were all of Muslim background. But I feel that it's a little bit too simplistic to just say that, yeah, they are Muslim and therefore they hate us, and right, we should go to war. I feel that the battle is not so much a religious battle. The religion is used as a tool, right? I think the real battle is between the modern world and the developing world. What I mean by this is that the gap is so far, people in the first world and what they have compared to people in the poverty, right? A good example is what happened with China almost 200 years ago with the Opium War, when the Europeans or the British pretty much forced them open. They wanted their right. The Europeans wanted Chinese tea, Chinese silk, Chinese pottery, Chinese products, but they did not have the silver to trade for these commodities. And the British soon realized that the only thing, the one commodity that the Chinese people did enjoy was opium, which the British had plenty of in India. And so because of that, right, Britain and China went to war, and things just spiraled out of control from then, and they had a lot of misery, a lot of suffering, and they call it the 100 years of humiliation experienced by the Chinese people, right? And let's face it, right? That the modern world, the modern Western world, is not very kind to ancient civilizations and other cultures. Right. Another good example is, if you're North American, you've been to Hawaii. Just look around you, right? Just look at the state of the native people. I went to Hawaii recently, and I went there for a canoe race. And when you go for a canoe race, you have to go launch off at the beaches, right? Beautiful beaches. Hawaii has beautiful natural wonders, right? The beaches, the volcanoes, the lush forests, the wildlife. But when you take a look at the native people and you look at the state that they're in, is that their culture has been completely decimated. They're all, English speaking, Jesus worshiping native people, right? Which is which showed me the impact of colonization, of European colonization. And I remember looking, being parked next to this car, and I looked into the car. I saw this obese woman, this obese Hawaiian woman. She had to be over 300 pounds. She was passed out at the driver's seat. This was like, 11 in the morning or sometime in the afternoon. And she was passed out. I don't think it was from exhaustion. I think it was probably from substance abuse, either, too much alcohol or whatever she was taking. And in the back seat was just a little girl, just a little child playing with some kind of, electronics, some kind of video game. And then it just dawned upon me, you go to a place like Hawaii where it's such a tourist hotspot. When you have, when the modern world and globalization breaches a place like Hawaii where there are native peoples and where everybody's living, I guess, in harmony, there's a lot of sadness that comes along with it, right? So, same thing that goes for the native peoples here in Canada, right? The native people really have it. That the culture has been just so decimated, so. I just don't really see a bright future for them. I'm an Asian immigrant, Chinese Asian immigrant, and I came to Canada when I was 15. So a lot of it was new, and just observing what's been going on, right? The modern world can be a very ruthless and brutal place to live in, and if you can't adapt, if you can't fit in, homelessness, substance abuse, desperation, poverty, and incarceration is what awaits you, right? It's a brutal place, but at the same time, the modern world offers such luxuries like this Rolex Submariner 2, and it's I don't know where I'm going with this, but extremism. The West always talks about combating extremism in the Middle East, right? Fighting against Islamist extremists, but in the West, we're also very extreme in terms of the way we live, right? You can be homeless and with needles sticking out of your arm, and or you could be a CEO wearing a luxury timepiece, right? So yeah, there you go. Just a couple reflections on luxury watches and the modern world, the madness that we live in today. Okay, thanks. Bye.